Welcome to the FIVIS Deep Dives, where we dive deep to aim high. Today, we're tackling something that's really critical for everyone in sales right now. Sales managers, key account managers, BD folks, leaders, you name it. We're diving into this new economic reality, specifically how to handle those really tough sales conversations when, global tariffs are forcing price increases. It's a big one, but honestly, so crucial for keeping relationships strong today. Our deep dive is drawing heavily from a great expert webinar on mastering tough sales conversations, especially insights from Jens Henschel. I bet this topic really hits close to home for a lot of you listening.
Oh, absolutely. And what's so valuable about Jens Henschel's perspective, he's the founder of FIVIS, by the way, is his background. He spent, nearly 20 years in procurement before moving into sales training. So he genuinely gets both sides of the table. And in times like these, so volatile, understanding the why behind the buyer's reaction, that's gold.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack this then. So the background is these new tariff regimes, like from the American administration, really shaking things up globally.
Yeah.
You're probably already feeling the heat from this in your sales calls, right?
Exactly. And a key point from Jens is that this isn't just, business as usual. Not even close. He actually used a Bloomberg economics chart showing these tariffs could be on a scale we haven't seen in maybe a century. With all that chaos as the backdrop, what does this actually mean for you if you're, say, a sales manager? Or anyone talking to customers? Jens had some really simple, powerful examples. Like imagine you sell something totally standard, like a pen, or maybe a barrel of chemicals, or even a specialized computer chip.
Right.
The problem is, bam, tariffs hit. Maybe directly, maybe indirectly, and now you've got to explain a price hike. We're talking like 18%, 20%, maybe even 25%.
Oof, yeah.
That's a really tough conversation to have.
For sure. And normally, right, your sales talks are probably more value-focused, discussing benefits, partnership, the long game. But the pressure now, often leadership is pushing for a more, adversarial stance, basically telling customers, you need to absorb this.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where the stress really ramps up. Jens talked about that fight or flight response, hardwired in us from way back. When that primal response kicks in under pressure, it comes out as non-collaborative behavior. You might get rigid, defensive, maybe even a bit too forceful. And that kind of tension, it's just not good for getting decent outcomes, let alone building trust. It's almost like, panic mode.
Yeah, panic mode. Okay, so to get past that, to handle the stress better, we need to flip the script.
Jen says the goal has to be moving away from that adversarial gut reaction towards being truly customer-centric.
Which leads to the big question. What's actually going on in the buyer's head when you come to them with this stuff? Jens, having sat there, he really pulls back the curtain. He compared it quite vividly to that Suez Canal blockage, the Ever Given ship back in 2021. Remember that massive disruption?
Yeah, huge mess.
Right. Now imagine that same level of shock, but purely financial because of tariffs. Buyers are suddenly under a microscope from their own bosses, facing questions like, why didn't you see this coming? What's wrong with our supply chain?
Wow, okay. Intense pressure.
Absolutely. And Jen zeroed in on 3 critical KPIs, key performance indicators for buyers that get hammered by these tariffs, things that could literally cost them their jobs. First, avoiding and managing risk. Suddenly, there's all this new financial risk they probably hadn't planned for. They look unprepared.
Yeah.
Second, managing spend predictably, their budgets. Completely thrown out of whack by these surprise increases.
Right, forecasting goes out the window.
Exactly, that's the third one. Forecasting. Their ability to predict costs for materials, services is totally distorted by all this volatility. So the anxiety level is sky high. Buyers feel this personally, maybe even more than suppliers, because their core metrics are just getting crushed. Their world's been turned upside down.
That makes sense. So how do they try to manage this chaos?
Well, Jens introduced a key tool buyers use, the Kraljic matrix. It's basically how procurement folks assess and categorize their supplier relationships. It looks at 2 main things: complexity, or risk, like how hard is it to switch suppliers? Are there alternatives? Is there unique IP involved? And value, which is about the money spent, yeah, but also the impact on the final customer.
Okay, complexity, risk, and value. So what categories come out of that?
Generally 4 main ones. You've got non-critical,
Yeah.
low complexity, low value, to think like office pens or standard supplies, easy to switch. Then competitive-based, low complexity but high value. Lots of suppliers so buyers can leverage competition.
Right.
And then strategic, high complexity, high value. These are the real partnerships, voluntary, collaborative.
Aren't essential.
Also high complexity, high value, but maybe more like a forced marriage.
Yeah.
Unique tech, single source, they have to work with them.
Okay, makes sense. Is there anything else?
Yeah, there's one category buyers try hard to avoid. Risky bottleneck. That's high complexity but low value, meaning you're difficult to manage but don't offer much strategic return. A real headache.
So here's where it gets really interesting. How do these tariffs completely upend the Kraljic matrix and your relationship with your customer?
This is the crucial point Jen's made. Tariffs can instantly reclassify you in your buyer's matrix.
Yeah.
That pen example used to be non-critical, right? Easy.
Yeah, low complexity, low value.
Suddenly, the price jumps 18%. Maybe other suppliers are raising prices too, so switching isn't easy. That simple pen. Overnight, it becomes a high-stress, risky bottleneck for the buyer. It's now complex and causing financial pain disproportionate to its value.
Okay, I see. What about the others, the chemical?
The competitive-based chemical. Normally, the buyer has options. But tariffs hit everyone. Reallocating big volumes quickly might be impossible or costly. Alternatives are suddenly scarce or also expensive. So again, that supplier shifts towards being a risky bottleneck. The buyer feels stuck.
And even the strategic ones, the microchip.
Even them. High complexity, high value, maybe a great relationship. But if the cost suddenly jumps 25%, that value proposition gets questioned. Is it still worth it? The relationship might still be essential, but it now also carries this massive financial risk, pushing it too into that painful, risky bottleneck zone from the buyer's viewpoint.
So basically, tariffs can push lots of suppliers into this high-stress category for the buyer.
Exactly. For the buyer, the situation becomes dire. Suddenly, many suppliers are headaches. The pressure on the buyer just increased like tenfold.
And just like the sales side getting pressure from leadership.
The buyers are too. They're being forced and incentivized by their bosses to push back hard on any price increases.
So you get sales pushing adversarially, procurement pushing back adversarially.
And Jens calls that a guaranteed lose-lose situation. Nobody really wins. Relationships get damaged, maybe permanently.
Okay, so it sounds pretty bleak. How do we fix this? Is there a way out?
Well, it's definitely not easy, right? No silver bullet. But Jens offers a very clear path. He actually quoted Winston Churchill. Never let a good crisis go to waste.
Ah, okay. Use the crisis as an opportunity.
Precisely. He believes this chaos is actually a huge opportunity to prove your real value, maybe even transform the relationship.
All right, so what shouldn't we do? What are the big mistakes?
Two big don'ts, Jens highlighted. First, do not just send an email saying prices are going up X%. He was adamant this will ruin the relationship beyond repair.
Why?
Because the buyer might just swallow it now if they have no choice, but they'll remember. First chance they get to replace you, they probably will. It shows a lack of partnership.
Okay, no price hike emails. What else?
Second, do not invoke force majeure. You know, that legal clause for unforeseeable events like earthquakes or floods.
Right, acts of God.
Yeah. Jens argued pretty strongly, Donald Trump is not God. These tariffs, while disruptive, were discussed, anticipated for like over a year. They weren't truly unforeseeable in the legal sense.
So trying to use force majeure is just...
Misguided, Jen says. It just leads to legal fights and, again, ruins a relationship beyond repair. It's trying to dodge responsibility, not solve the problem together.
Okay, so those are the don'ts. What should we be doing? What's the customer-centric approach look like?
First step, absolutely critical. Acknowledge the buyer's reality and not just lip service, like saying, oh, we understand. You need to show you get it. Remember their pressures, their supply base is a mess, their KPIs are shot, maybe they're worried about their job. Show them you've actually thought about their specific pain points.
So demonstrate real empathy based on their situation. Got it. What's next?
Second, bring in your SWAT team. Show the buyer you have an internal emergency team working day in, day out, specifically on mitigating these tariff impacts. And critically, present a clear plan showing what you're doing. Efficiency drives, exploring alternatives, whatever it is, even if you can't absorb all the cost, show the effort.
And the plan needs specifics.
Absolutely. Specific timelines. Jen stressed this. Day 1, week 1, month 1, month 3, month 6, month 12. What are you doing at each stage? So for that microchip example, maybe day 1 is a cost breakdown review. Week 1 is exploring alternative logistics. Month 1 is a joint workshop to find savings. That kind of concrete detail.
Okay, show them you're actively working on it with a real plan and timeline. Then what?
Third, communicate proactively and take the lead. Don't wait for the buyer to chase you. Be the one reaching out. You need to arm your buyer with information, with answers they can take straight to their managers. You have to, as Jens put it, step up your game.
Be part of their solution, basically.
Exactly. And once the buyer feels you actually understand them, that you're actively helping, then they become open to listen to solutions, even ones involving price adjustments. And this is the opportunity, the chance to prove you deserve to be seen as strategic, even if you were maybe non-critical before.
How do you do that? Be customer-centric in action.
Yeah, by really digging into their world, understand their value chain, their risks, their opportunities, find that low-hanging fruit, quick wins you can offer. And importantly, offer new ideas, maybe projects that got shot down before because there wasn't budget or attention. This crisis creates urgency. Management wants solutions now.
So bring proactive solutions to the table.
Yes, take the lead. Don't wait for them to ask you for ideas. Show initiative.
Okay, that makes sense. So the core is understanding, having a plan, communicating proactively, and bringing solutions.
And that plan needs to be incredibly clear. Jens emphasized that the real test here is taking action. He laid out a blueprint for the kind of action plan the buyer desperately needs from you. It's not vague promises, it's granular. It needs to spell out. What is the specific project or action? What is the exact measurable outcome it will achieve for them? How, step by step, will it get done? When will it be completed? A specific date, Jens stressed. Not ASAP, not next quarter.
Yeah.
A date. Who's responsible? Actual names, so there's accountability. And what are the defined next steps? What happens tomorrow?
Wow, that's detailed. He had an analogy for the clarity needed.
Yeah, he said something like, if you have an action plan, show it to your loved ones back home. If they don't get what you're talking about, your plan isn't explicit enough.
Huh. Okay, so crystal clear, simple enough for anyone to grasp. That's the level of detail the buyer needs.
Exactly, because they need to take that plan to their manager to justify the path forward, maybe justify sticking with you despite the cost increase. You're giving them the ammunition they need internally.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. Jens also covered some specific scenarios in the Q&A, right? Real-world stuff.
You did, yeah. Really practical insights into the buyer's mindset. Like, what if a customer just emails demanding a huge, say, 20% price decrease with a short deadline?
Yeah, what do you do then? Panic.
Jen said, hold on. It could just be a tactic, right? Or it could be genuine desperation on their side. The key isn't to just cave or offer a discount immediately. Instead, acknowledge their message, mention your own SWAT team's efforts on cost mitigation, showing you're also under pressure, and then pivot. Use it as a conversation starter to talk about value creation, about that detailed plan.
And what about the best way a supplier can approach a buyer in these tough times, from the buyer's view?
Proactivity and, interestingly, vulnerability. Jen said the best suppliers are the ones who come forward proactively, maybe even saying, look, we have a problem here, but immediately follow it with, and here's our plan to tackle it.
So own the problem, but bring the solution.
Exactly. Equip the buyer with that ammunition, the plan, the justification they need for their own internal battles. Make their job easier.
What if a customer insists on email, doesn't want to meet, especially now?
First, don't take it personally. Buyers are swamped. Jen's mentioned a company like Unilever dealing with like 40,000 suppliers. They physically can't meet everyone.
Right. Resources are stretched.
Especially now, as we said, when maybe dozens or hundreds of their suppliers have suddenly become these risky bottlenecks demanding attention, they have to prioritize. So the answer, provide that succinct, to-the-point project plan via email. Make it compelling. If it's genuinely good, if it clearly offers a solution to their problem, Jens was confident they will call you.
So the quality of the plan itself is the key to getting that call back.
Absolutely. It has to scream value and solution. Specific outcomes, timelines, who's doing what, clear next steps, not just fuzzy talk. Show you're prepared, you've committed resources. That's what cuts through the noise.
Makes sense. This has been a really illuminating deep dive, mastering these tough conversations, especially with tariffs and disruption. The core message seems incredibly clear, that customer centricity, it's not just a nice to have, it's really your most powerful strategy in a crisis. It really brings that Churchill quote to life, never let a good crisis go to waste.
It's exactly. This tough environment, it really is a chance to deepen relationships, to prove you're more than just a line item, to actually become strategic.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Let's connect this back. Think about your own relationship. Which ones might unknowingly be seen as risky bottlenecks right now because of these pressures?
That's a really good question to ask yourself.
And then What immediate, concrete, super detailed action plan, like the one Jen's described, can you put together right now to start shifting that perception, to really build those bridges instead of just, trying to ride out the storm?
That's the homework, really, taking these ideas and putting them into action.
Absolutely. Take these insights, apply them with that relentless focus on the customer's reality that Jen's talked about, and see how you can navigate and maybe even thrive in these undeniably challenging times.